Hello, welcome to Mr. Joe's Online Learning. We're going to do a little talk through of a lesson that we did this week about we did a couple lessons. One of the things we started with when my student came in today was how to take a 2D design and make it 3D. So right here we have a ketchup villain, Chaos Ketchup. Yeah, we can tell he's evil because he has these spiky shoulder pads, which we also worked out how to make it look like all the spikes are rotating on his shoulder pads, so he looks really gladiator-like. And we look at the basic shapes. We have the lid, which is in a two-dimensional drawing, a rectangle and a sectioned off triangle. And then over here, we take that and project it downward so that we have a ellipse on the top, an ellipse on the bottom, and an ellipse for the nozzle. Now, as we can see, we can down on top of them. We do want to decide as we create any type of three-dimensional shape, are we looking down on top of it, or are we looking up from below? So knowing where to put that ellipse helps us decide, is this going to be a downward view or an upward view? Basically a bird's eye view or a worm's eye view, but more simply, are we looking up at him? Is he tilting his head up, or is he kind of downcast and looking down? Other objects that we had to look at is his two-dimensional arm and hand. This is kind of the noodle arm is what we decided to go with. And just kind of Mickey Mouse hands. What are the actual geometrical shapes that we can use to figure out how to make this a three-dimensional looking cartoon ketchup hand? So we looked at the sphere, just a circle. When you take that and make it three-dimensional, it becomes kind of like a inflated medical glove or an inflated rubber glove where the fingers stick out, kind of like Mickey Mouse's hands. And the little noodle fingers hanging out, so that basically gives us what we need there. And then we have the noodle legs, which when projected look more like macaroni noodles. We tend to look down at our legs, so we look at them from above, give them a little shading, and then figure that the foot is just like a kind of musical note shape, but with a hoop, a half circle or a half sphere, a hemisphere for the toe area. If you think of the front of, say, Chuck Taylor Converse shoes, that's kind of what the shape is there. Just something so that we can articulate it if we need to. So that is projecting the body in 3 dimensions. And here we are moving on to the face. So, not Captain Ketchup, but Chaos Ketchup. We have a circular mouth because he's opening his mouth to show us his wonderful pearly teeth. His pearly white's kind of like a shark. And when we go sideways, we want to say, okay, in a 2-dimensional projection, all this has to line up horizontally. The eyes line up with the eyes. The eyebrows line up with the eyebrows. The mouth lines up with the mouth. And the bottom of the mouth lines up with the mouth. So that also helps us decide, okay, is his center line going down the middle? What kind of teeth can I set up? We had to decide, is it 2 teeth on either side of the center line or 1 tooth on the center line? And looking at both options, we decided, let's do 2 teeth on either side of the center line, and then we could just go around the clock and create more teeth. And we did the same thing over here. When we rotate from front to side, we simply move the center line, center CTR, over to the side, and then we have to line up everything that would be in line with that over to where it goes now, which means that the center line here splits the teeth, which would mean that these teeth are split. Once projected, we then decide, does the chin come out a little bit? In this case, we decided to try it. Not a bad look. We went with it. And then the big challenge, how to take all this information of taking a fortunately linear design, dividing it in half, and then quarters, and then deciding, yes, the eyes line up, the pupils are just inside of the quarter and three-quarter line. So are the eyebrows, obviously the teeth, and then the edges of these kind of cartoon anime eyes are in line with the first and fourth quarter, or the beginning and end of our shape. So we take 1, 2, 3, 4, rotate it over here, and that's the side view. And then with the three-quarter view, we then will have to decide where the center line goes. All the details must follow. So here we have center line at the three-quarter point, turning to our left. We still have to line up all of those teeth. So just to make it consistent, let's say 2 teeth, kind of buck teeth at the top, split in the center, and the same here with the center line split at the bottom. The eyes are just inside of the first quarter and third quarter on either side of the half. Horizontally, it all lines up. The eyebrow lines up with the eyebrow, the mouth lines up with the mouth. The eyes do line up with the eyes. I didn't create a line, but that gives us the placement so that when we decide to put them there, we can have them there. And then the angle of the eyebrows is consistent and rotates around. And we can see the only thing that we added here was, I wiped off a little bit of the board, the outward jetting lines of these kind of anime cartoon eyes. If they're just outside of the border, we then want to decide, do they also jut out over here? So here we have a triple rotation of Chaos Ketchup's head at front, side, and three-quarter view. And isn't that wonderful? We now have a wonderful mouth. Then we had to decide, well, what does this circular mouth with the teeth going in 360 degrees like a clock actually look like? For an analog, for something similar, I thought, it's kind of like a bear trap. So here we have an open bear trap, which when opened looks kind of like a shark's teeth, or yeah, that's pretty much what it looks like. More like shark's teeth than a bear's teeth. And then that would also mean that from the side, we have something that actually articulates. Like, how does he move his mouth? What does it look like? It's going to have to look like something we can work with. So bear claw teeth. And then at the three-quarter view, this is a little complicated. We have a little cut in because this is essentially a ketchup bottle or cardboard tube, which we've cut a section out of, which from the front will look like a circle. And then from the side, it's a little more crescent shaped. So we gave a lip to the outside of what would have been a bear claw seen from the side. So there's 3 rotations of Mr. Ketchup, or Chaos Ketchup, as well as his armor design. So that's a short lesson on how to take your character, simply give it a center line, make it symmetrical, decide if anything isn't symmetrical, and then once you have your center line, you can figure out your 1, 2, 3, 4 quarters, run them horizontally, run vertical relationships across, just like a police lineup, just like that poster for Guardians of the Galaxy, and then line up everything exactly the way it would be if you move the center line over a quarter or a half to give you side view and three quarters. So we'll go over a couple more things, but that's that short lesson now. So have fun trying to rotate your character design 2-dimensionally from front, side, and three-quarter. And obviously if you had ears, they would line up between the nose and nose and the mouth. And if there was a center line here, they would be behind the center line. If you notice, my ear is behind the center line of my face. So we want to make that realistic and believable. That's all for now, and there will be another lesson in just a little bit.